to make sure that we would actually record the video. So yeah, here we are. Thank you so
Cool.
much for actually taking time out to allow me to do this for the students. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you for getting up early.
That's okay. I'll just before we start, I'll just give you a little bit of a background. I think so it's clear for you what I'm going to intend to do this with this interview. So there's two things I want to do. First thing is because I've created the Become a Social Media Manager certificate qualification in Australia, I want to be able to show the students first-hand experience of people doing really well in their niche. So, for example, yourself and
Okay.
video marketing, etc. The second thing that I had in mind for you was that if you know what your keywords are, I will put that up on my YouTube channel and hopefully get that ranked for you to promote your book as well.
Okay. You're breaking up a lot and your video's not moving at all. Are you seeing me okay?
Yes, I am seeing you okay.
It seems to actually be getting better now that I said that.
That's good. So yeah, so that's my intention, and then obviously I'll put the interview on my social media sites and my website as well for you, so that you get some exposure. So that's good.
Great. That sounds great.
Awesome. So basically, Lacy, I don't have a set of interview questions or structure that I go by. I'd prefer to sort of do it more intuitively and just have a really nice conversation and make it more relaxed and authentic.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And if you, I mean, ideally at the end, I would love that you share with the students and the audience how they can subscribe to your newsletter list, or how can they, subscribe, so that helps you as well. And yeah, so don't feel that you can't self-promote. Definitely self-promote throughout the whole interview process.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll just see how it goes and run with it. So again, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this for me. I really, really appreciate it.
No, I'm happy to do it. Tell me again who your audience is specifically
So
so I can tailor my advice.
Okay, so specifically, it's people studying to become a social media manager. So that's people
Okay.
in that profession, and then obviously their audience is small to medium businesses.
Okay.
So
Cool.
yes, so it's information for them to go out and be armed with. You know what, small to medium business owner, you need to do blogs because of this, this, and this. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's start. Hello and welcome. My name's Leanne Peard, social media specialist and social media trainer for Become a Social Media Manager here in Australia. And it gives me great pleasure today to introduce to you Lacy Boggs from the Content Direction Agency. So I've been following Lacy for about 6 or 7 months now, and she has an amazing amount of information that she does in regards to blogging, and we all know how important blogging is. So I'm hoping that Lacy today will be able to share some insight on blogs, and also share some tips and techniques on how to actually do this with ease and grace. So welcome, Lacy.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here.
So Lacy, can you just tell me, how did you start blogging? Was it something that you've always wanted to do as a small child, or was it just an inspiration that you woke up one day and said, I'm going to be a blog writer?
I'm going to date myself here, but blogs did not exist when I was a small child, so I definitely haven't been thinking
sure.
about that. No, but I have been a writer since I could hold a pencil, more or less, and I came into it sort of backwards. I was a journalist before this, and I got pregnant and didn't want to work 60-hour weeks for peanuts and miss my child growing up. So I decided to try to be freelance writer, And I also started a blog. I was an award-winning food writer at the time, so it seemed totally natural that I start a food blog, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But while I did really well growing the blog and getting an audience and getting in front of exciting people, I got guest posting gigs with Martha Stewart's properties and things like that. I couldn't make it pay. I chose a really bad niche for earning money. I was targeting busy moms on a budget. And let me just, here's a pro tip. Moms on a budget don't want to spend money. So that became pretty clear to me right away. But I seemed to be pretty good at the blogging thing. So I thought to myself, well, maybe other business owners need somebody to blog for them. And I hung out my shingle as a ghost blogger. And it turns out, yes, there was a very high demand for someone to blog for other people's small businesses. And that's how I got started.
Fantastic. That's awesome. I definitely, I heard two things that were really important there. One is knowing your target market. That's extremely important for any business. And I know that many of my business clients struggle with identifying what their target market is. So I'm pleased that you've definitely got yours. And the other interesting fact is ghostwriting. And I was actually going to ask you about this further into the interview. However, let's chat about it now. I was going to ask what your thoughts were in regards to, hiring a ghostwriter versus writing your own content, and what difference do you see in the two for a business owner or a business that has a blog?
Sure. So I believe that you can very successfully hire a ghostwriter. Blogging is something that A, you don't enjoy, B, you feel you're not good at, or C, it would just free up time for you to do more important things, not to be blogging. So, but the caveat with that is that you have to be able to find someone who can represent your brand appropriately. So in my way of thinking, I guess, there's two kinds of ghost blogging. There's the kind where you hire a writer who acts as themselves to write on your behalf. So, that would be me writing on your site, Leanne, as Lacy Boggs. I would get a byline. And then the other side is a ghost writer where I'm writing as you or whoever. And the second one is much more difficult to find a good one. You have to be very careful to find the right fit because, A, not every content writer is going to be able to emulate your voice, and B, not every content writer is going to be comfortable or want to do that. A lot of writers want a byline, and that's okay too. But it takes a certain pairing. You have to find the right connection there.
Fabulous. Thanks for that. So when you say ghostwriting and having your own voice, what do you find most of your clients want? Do they want just somebody to write content for them, or are they looking for someone to write as themselves?
Most of my clients want me to be them. So they publish it as themselves. And because that's actually where one of my superpowers lies, is that I'm very good at mimicking other people's voice.
Brilliant. So thinking about blogs, like how important, like I've been around a lot longer than you, so I'm showing my age now, and I know how important blogs have been for many years for search engine optimization and getting people's websites out there and found. So what's your thoughts on moving forward maybe 10 or 15 years to now, and do you still obviously you do, but if you explain how the power of blogging is still relevant today in such a busy digital market and a noisy place that we have?
Sure. Yeah, I think people have been predicting the death of blogs for about as long as they've been predicting the death of physical books and paper media. And the real thing I've seen there is not that the media is dying, but that it evolves. So as a marketer, you have to evolve with it. So just as an example, when I started thinking about marketing and things, even when I was a journalist, the the prevailing wisdom was to post short blogs as often as possible. So everybody was saying you had to post 7 days a week, a couple times a day, even if you wanted to get noticed. And they were saying, short little 300 word, just get it up there as fast as you can. That I actually did that when I was starting out as a freelancer. I got hired by a website. I was paid very little money and wrote, 300 word blog posts a couple times a week for them. And I was one of a team of like 10 writers. Since then, in just the last 5 years or so, Google has shown a preference for longer, more in-depth content. And nowadays, I would say that my clients don't want a post that's less than 1,000 words, tops. I mean, at minimum. So the preference from both the marketers and the market has become longer, more in-depth, more useful posts. Some that are long-form content can be as much as a 10,000 word post, which is a novella, really. You get down to it. So, but those are things that are doing really well with search engines and with getting shared a lot with social media and so on. So the trend has definitely shifted. And so, sort of to go back to your question, it's almost impossible for me to predict where it's going to be in the future. But I think the key is going to be watching very carefully and going with the trends, or even trying to stay in front of it.
Brilliant. So longer blogs is what I'm hearing you say, but maybe not as frequent as the old sort of rule was. So what would you post? Once a week would be okay?
Yeah, I think once a week is fine. I tell my clients once a month is the bare minimum, because any less than that, people will forget about you.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something really epic and useful and thoughtful once a month, or every other week, or once a week, I think that's plenty.
Fabulous. Thank you for that. So if we were to say, looking into our crystal ball, if we were to say what is the perfect blog template, do you have any sort of suggestive tools or tricks that you can share, or strategies?
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. I actually have an opt-in on my website. If you look at my blog, it's on the right-hand side in the column, but it's for the quote-unquote perfect blog template. And I say, as soon as you opt in for it, that there's no such thing as a perfect blog post, but that it's a good place to start. People need somewhere to start, right? Depending on what your niche is, what the business you're writing for, what their niche is, I tend to find that something that goes really in depth, that gives a really intense how-to, or really explain something in depth, is a great way to go. Another one is just to invoke emotion. So a lot of businesses, it doesn't really make sense for them to have how-to content necessarily, but if you can find ways, something that invokes emotion of any kind. Some people do really well stirring up controversy. Other people do really well with inspiration. They're very inspiring. Other people do really well with making you laugh or making you come back because you just really enjoy their stories. So anything that invokes an emotion, even if you're a business, is a great way to go.
I was just thinking then what you were saying, because I believe, and you can share your thoughts on this, I believe that all businesses should have a blog, regardless of frequency. It should be something that they use. And I was just thinking about emotions around a shoe shop, and I was thinking, wow, how would you do that? But it's all about how you would feel when you wear the shoes, right?
For sure. Well, and there's so much aspirational living that you can do around shoe shops. Like, depending on if it's a high-end shoe shop, you could show the pictures of the incredible shoes that people want, the investment pieces, or you could do wonderful, how would you build an outfit to go with these shoes? Or, if it's more like active wear, you show it out in the world, show people running on the trail, because that's inspiring, right? It gets people excited and energized and wanting to use that product.
Brilliant. Thank you. So, business owners that are listening to this, or social media managers to be, you've got to really think outside the product, don't you? You've got to think about the features and benefits that product will give, and then write.
Yeah, I talk about thinking sideways. So you want to think about what else, especially if you have a product, like a physical product. When you're B2B or a service provider, a lot of what you blog about can be how to, because you solve a lower level problem, right? But when you're a product-based business, you have to think about what else your consumer is interested in and how you can build your blog around that, because they don't necessarily want to see, in your shoe shop example, they don't necessarily aren't going to subscribe to your blog if you just talk about what's on sale every week, right?
Yeah.
They need something bigger than that to come back for. So you have to kind of think, what else are these people interested in? Like I said, if it's high-end ladies footwear, they're probably interested in fashion and trends. If it's running shoes, they're interested in the running lifestyle. So you kind of have to think sideways from your product to figure out what you can blog about.
That's brilliant advice. Thank you. So do you believe, Lacy, that having a blog or sharing that information can help a business owner own their space and become an expert or an authority?
Absolutely. Especially if you're in a niche where nobody's taken that spot yet. If you are a local business and there's no one else locally that's providing that, that's a wonderful way to define your niche. Or if you can just take, it's all about your unique selling proposition, right? That's like marketing 101. If you can figure out what makes you different, what sets you apart from other people or other businesses in your niche, then that's a wonderful way to base your blog and really show that branding and that marketing in action.
Fabulous advice. Thank you so much. So another thing I noticed, and I noticed this with my clients, and I noticed it on your website too, is that many business owners look at, and I'll talk about social media for a moment, they look at social media and go, well, how do I work out that that's actually giving me a return on your investment? And I noticed on your website you actually had a blog where you spoke about the return on the investment for the blog post. So can you share your insights about that, and what does that look like for business owners? Because I think many of them probably don't even think like that.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think you have to back up one step from that. And that is, why are you blogging in the first place? What do you hope to get out of it? And I think a lot of business owners don't even think about that. They've been told somewhere along the line that they have to have a blog, and so they put one up, but they don't even really think about why they're doing it. So I always encourage my students to come up with that why first. So what is it you hope to gain by blogging? And you should attach a metric to that. So whatever it is, you need to attach some kind of number so you can determine, am I succeeding or not? And that goal. And so mine, for example, is going to be email leads. I want to get more people on my email list. So I can look at a blog post, and if I put an opt-in box on that blog post, I can see very granularly how well did that post do. Did it succeed in my goal? I can see how many people opted in for that particular blog post. Was it really great? Was it not so good? And then over time, that shows me that blogging is making a difference with that metric. So to your question about ROI, if I know how much a lead is worth to my business, then I can multiply that out. So if I know that a lead is worth, I don't know, I'm going to do some simple math here because I'm not good on my feet, but if I know that a lead is worth $10 to my business on average, then if I get 20 leads from a blog post, that blog post is worth $200, right?
Yes.
So that tells me that it was worth my time and effort to write that post. Does that kind of make sense there?
Brilliant. And that's just basic, again, comes back to marketing, like you were saying, 101. You need to know the cost of your client, or the value, the cost value of your client, to work out anything in any sort of online space. So that's brilliant. Thank you. So do you believe that everyone should have a call to action at the bottom of a blog? Because I've seen, information saying yes, and then some say no. So what's your thoughts on that? Obviously.
Well, again, it comes back to what you want to get out of it. So if my main reason for blogging is to get email signups, then obviously I want to take every opportunity I can to ask people to sign up for my email. If your metric is different, then you'll have a different call to action. So maybe your metric is that you want somebody to sign up for a discovery call where you get on the phone. So you would have, that would be your call to action. Maybe your metric is that you want to build conversation, and so therefore a comment would count towards your metric. So then asking for comments or posing a question so that people could answer in the comments. Or maybe it's getting people to join a free Facebook group or whatever it is. Download a coupon, whatever it might be, that becomes then your call to action.
So, Lacy, would the call to action be only one point of call? Like, for example, I've seen some, and I'm guilty of it myself, where I've said things like, don't forget to opt into my newsletter, or follow me on Facebook, or leave a comment. So do you think that for the person reading that they should only have one call to action to take on?
Yeah, so from a psychological perspective, when we're given too many options, we choose none. There's some very famous psychological studies that prove this. So it's better to limit the number of things you're asking somebody to do, and also to be very specific. So for example, if you want to comment and you ask a question like, what do you think about XYZ? Don't just leave it there. Then say, let me know in the comments below. You want to be very, very specific in your instructions, because for whatever reason, we're like little puppies online, and we need to be told exactly where to go and what to do, or we don't do it. So I think one call to action, at very most two, and then being very, very specific with your instructions about what to do.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, I'm guilty of that, as I said, just do everything. I need you.
Right.
Seriously though, I want to sort of, unless you've got anything else to share about, blogging. I know, as I said, personally, that it's very powerful. And you obviously do too, because you provide that service to your clients. And also for the people watching, if you missed what Lacy said before, she has that perfect template on her website, so make sure you download that. But I really want to talk about your book. So can you share some information about your book? What's that about, and how people can get hold of it?
Sure. I wrote a book called Making a Killing with Content, and it's available on Amazon for your Kindle, or it's also available on my website in a variety of formats if you don't Kindle and need it some other way. But basically, it's about connecting the dots between content and making a sale, which I think is a problem a lot of online entrepreneurs in general, are faced with. They can come up with things to write about. Maybe they have a blog. Maybe it even gets a lot of likes and comments, but they can't figure out how to get people from the blog to the sale. And so that's what the book really tries to help people understand.
Fantastic. It's funny you say that, because I had an interview with a video expert this morning too, and he said exactly the same thing. It's great to give the content like we are. Content is video, it's blogs, it can be social media, but it's actually doing that twist to get them to actually take action. So what are your thoughts on that? Does a business owner need to go out and get a degree in sales and marketing to get their head around what to do, or is there something that they just maybe they might be missing out on, some key point?
Sure. I think having the end in mind is the first and most important step. So if you're just blogging for the sake of blogging, again, as I said before, and you don't know why you're doing it, you're never going to get that. You're just not. I've seen it for myself that putting a buy now button on your blog post very rarely works. So, you have to think of it more as part of an overarching strategy. So I don't think you need to go out and get a degree in sales and marketing, but you need to understand how the blog fits into your overall strategy for getting a sale. So to me, selling is like dating. You don't go up to somebody in the bar and say, "Hi, my name's Lacy. Would you like to sign this mortgage application with me?" That's not going to work. So you have to, content marketing to me is the very best way to sell, because you're creating a relationship and you're providing value before you ever ask for anything. But you have to ask eventually. So when you can create your content with that in mind, when you can create your content, understanding when and where you're going to make the ask, then it becomes a much more fluid process. So for me, for my business, I sell best in email. I'm a writer, right? So I sell best via email. So my goal with my blog is going to be to get people on my email list so that then when I have something to offer, I can sell them through email. I can make the offer through email. Different business models will have different goals, but blogging is always part of the process. It's not the end goal.
That's right, and I'm glad that you said that. I believe, and I've always taught my students and my clients that your website is the heart of your marketing, especially with online. And you go out and you do a post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or wherever, but you should be sending them back to your website. And same with the blogs. The blogs, to me, is your engine. It's what keeps your website turning over all the time, and keeping people interested. So one medium doesn't cut it for marketing. Like if we were wanting to sell something, we wouldn't just go to a letterbox flyers around the neighborhood and go, that's it, my marketing's done, where are all my clients? Which some people think that that's the way it works. So it's a mix, isn't it? It's a mix of everything that you're good at. So for example, blog writing. But would you, or do you, Lacy, do you repurpose your blogs in any other way to get people back in to read them? And would you share that?
Yes. Yes. So I think repurposing is one of the under discussed topics with blogging, because we spend so much time and energy creating this content, and then we post it once, and maybe for a week, we're publishing it on Facebook or whatever, and then where does it go? It just disappears into the black hole of the internet, right? It doesn't have to be that way. There's lots of different ways to repurpose. I'll give you an example. So I have a few posts from last year that I think are really good. So I hired a gal who can create slideshows, so PowerPoint presentations. So I give her the blog post. She creates a PowerPoint presentation from the content of the blog post. Then I record a voiceover to go with it. Okay, so now I have a slide deck that I can upload to SlideShare. I have individual graphics. Each slide is a different graphic I could use on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever I want to put it. I have a video that I can chop up into little bits to put on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever that will take video. I also have a video I can upload to YouTube and optimize to with keywords for their search engines. Plus, all of that blog post has a content upgrade, which means there's a worksheet or something to go with it to entice people to download. So I've got all these different avenues that now are leading to this download opportunity for them to give me their email address. So I've now used one piece of content, one blog post that I wrote last year, and I've got it on like 6 or 7 different channels, 15 different times, and I can continue to promote that in different ways ad infinitum, really.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And I think that's where many business owners, well, I feel from my experience that many business owners go, this is so overwhelming. I don't know where to start. I've got all these social media channels and now you want me to write a blog, blah, blah, blah. But if you actually come back and write the blog first, as we say over here in Australia, you get more bang for your buck. So therefore you can then repurpose that content to any sort of social media platform.
Right. And a lot of that can be outsourced, so if you have a team, if you have an assistant or a virtual assistant, a lot of it can be outsourced very easily and very inexpensively. And there's even services now like Edgar that will help you put one update into your queue for Facebook or Twitter, and then it just keeps coming up. You can sort it and filter it by ones that are popular or that do well, and it just keeps going. It's always there, so you're continuously promoting the content that does well.
Yeah, brilliant. And I love Meet Edgar. It's so easy to use, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. All right, so is there anything else that you'd like to share in regards to what small business owners should do, maybe 1 or 2 steps that can actually take this whole dreaded, oh my God, I have to write or I have to blog away from that stigma, and what they could do with ease and grace?
Sure. The first thing I always like to say to people is that writing is a practice. Just like any other art or skill that you might want to develop, you need to practice. And blogging is a wonderful outlet for that, because just because of the nature of blogging, you practice. You post every week or every month, whatever your schedule is, but you have to continually do it. So the more you do it, the better you get. The second thing I would say is that an ounce of planning is worth a pound of effort. So if you would like to go on my website, go to lacyboggs.com/library. There is, inside my free library of content, there is a template for my editorial calendar, and there's a little video that goes with it that shows how to use it. But basically, if you can plan out your blog posts even a month or two in advance, you will be so far ahead of your competitors who are trying to do it on the fly. And that's part of that strategy I was talking about, where you have to know where you're going. If you know, for example, that you have a big sale or promotion coming up in 2 months, you can choose to plan your content in those 2 months leading up, so that people are primed and ready to go. As soon as you hit go on that promotion, they're ready to buy. They're saying, take my money, please.
Brilliant. That's great advice, planning, and that's where, like you say, it's part of any great foundation, even for marketing, is to know what you're doing next. That's great advice. And like Lacy said, guys, head over to her website and download that free editorial calendar, and I'm sure it'll be a great help for you and your potential clients. So, Lacy, just to wrap it up, you mentioned earlier, and I'm just taking a bit of a pun on words here, that you had superpowers. What is your superpower?
Well, I said before that my superpower was sounding like other people. I think that is true, because it's a really strange talent that I happen to have. I'm very good at identifying what makes you sound like you and then mimicking it. I'm a mynah bird of blogging. Other than that, I would say probably my superpower is, you know what it is? This is weird. This is a little off topic. I always pick the longest line in the supermarket or the airport or whatever. It doesn't matter if it looks short, it will take longer than any other line. It's a joke with me and my husband that he has to pick the line because mine will take 10 times longer. Not a very useful superpower.
No, that's it. But it gives you time to create content, doesn't it? To stop and think.
There you go. Get on my phone and start blogging.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. Thanks for sharing. So, Lacy, just to wrap it up, is there anything else that you would like to share that maybe I haven't asked you today that you can assist owners or business owners or food bloggies, whatever is out there listening?
I could talk about blogging for hours on end, but I think probably I've said my most important thing is that understand your why. Really, really know what you hope to get out of blogging, and then attach a metric to that so that you know if it's working or not. Because otherwise, if you're just throwing stuff out there and trying to see what sticks, spaghetti is not a strategy. So throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks is not a good way to run your business, and it's a complete waste of your time. So don't do that. Blog with intention, know your why, understand what you hope to get out of it, and then you will. It's a little bit of trial and error, but if you know what you hope to get out of it, you can find the best way to achieve it.
Awesome. And one last question, because you just prompted me for another one then, is what time frame? Like, I know many business owners, they get into this space and they go gangbusters and do it, and then they go, oh, that didn't work. So is there a time frame that you may start seeing some sort of return on your investment and your time?
I think that's difficult to say, because everybody's a little bit different, and again, it depends what your metrics of success are. But just as an example, it's taken me 4 years to build up my email list. I just hit 5,000 people on my email list. Well, that was a big milestone I was shooting for this year. Yeah, and so, but that's 4 years. And I could have done it a lot faster if I'd been more focused on doing certain promotional strategies. But so I guess my point here is that if you try something for, say, a quarter, 3 months, and it doesn't seem to be returning what you want it to return, switch it up. You can always go back to it and try it again. And some strategies work well once you have a critical mass of followers and people. So, you may need to switch it up, try again once you've gotten a certain number of people looking or a certain amount of traffic. So I would say never necessarily give up on anything, but you can set it aside and try something else and then come back to it later.
Brilliant advice. Thank you so much for sharing. I know many business owners, they're entrepreneurial and they're creative and they lack patience. And I do also. So I can speak from the heart there they want it
For
now.
sure.
Why isn't it working right now?
Well, and the thing about blogging is that every week is a new opportunity, but it's also a new challenge. So, if I'm blogging about a different subtopic every single week, some blogs are going to land really well and some are not. Some opt-ins I get, my traffic jumps way high, and sometimes stuff goes viral that I never would have predicted would go viral. So you just have to kind of keep trying and look at the big picture as opposed to like 1 week or one blog post. Try to look at the trends over time in the big picture.
Fabulous advice. So, Lacy, again, if you just would share, where would they get the blog template from? What's your website? How can people connect with you if they're wanting to actually, hire your services as a ghostwriter? If you just share all that important information with the guys here today, that would be great.
Sure. My website is lacyboggs.com, and I'm sure you'll have it in the title and the show notes how to spell it. If you go to lacyboggs.com/blog, you'll see in the sidebar there's a little space to download your perfect blog template. That's a great way to get started. And if you go to lacyboggs.com/library, you can opt into my free eyes only content library, which has more goodies than you can imagine. And they're all for free, and it's all in one spot. And it's really basically a crash course in blogging for business. So that's a great place to start if you're interested in learning more.
Thank you so much, Lacy. Again, I appreciate your time and effort in sharing this information. Blogs are so important for the business owner, like we've discussed today. And I also thank you for your generosity in sharing all those tools and tips with the audience. And don't forget to go and grab Lacy's new book, which is available on Amazon and from the website as well.
That's right. So if you like Kindle, it's available on Amazon's Kindle. It's called Make a Killing with Content, and it's also available on my website if you need a PDF or for your Nook or anything else. All the other versions are on my website.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Lacy, for joining me today and helping my students how to become an awesome social media manager. My goal is to create the best internationally. So now they've got the best expert here on blogs. So that's just one step closer
thank you.
to them.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Lacy.